Getting started is always the hardest part, right?
Of course.
In Vancouver, we have several problems that are contributing to making the housing crisis worse. We've got a lot of large, expensive homes sitting empty, and the city is doing some measures to try to make that better. That's going to take some time. We've also got a lot of Airbnb in the city because it's such a popular destination and everybody wants to come and visit. So Airbnb, even though it's like this really cool model that lets people share their homes, it contributes to the lack of rentals because units that are rented out in whole are therefore not available for families or individuals to rent. But what if we could use those two things and combine them together to make it more possible for people to find housing? That's the idea behind Blossom Co-Housing Project. This springs from something that I did myself. So I'm actually standing here in my own backyard of what is a really large property here in Vancouver. I first moved in here 4 years ago when I was a single mom with 2 kids approaching teenagehood, and I actually could not find housing that was suitable for me and them. I had this much money and I kept trying to figure out how can we be smaller and fit into a smaller space and actually make it work, but what's the maximum amount of money that I could afford so that I could maybe have a few more options to look at, because the market was really bad, and that was 4 years ago. It's only gotten worse. 4 years ago, what I did was, I need to admit it was a temper tantrum moment, but I got on Craigslist and I started looking at the most expensive houses on the market with this bad attitude. And I thought in my head that these houses were all about luxurious appointments in the home and all these lots of bedrooms. And of course, it was me and 2 kids. We didn't need all the bedrooms. But when I looked at the houses' pictures, I realized that there were actually common spaces that were huge. I work as a coach and I run groups and lots of other kinds of projects and activities, and my colleagues are also coaches or counselors or healers, and we're always looking for warm and inviting spaces in which to hold events. And I realized, looking at the pictures of these really big common spaces in the big homes, that we could do them there. And the idea started to be born of, what if I did this inside out? What if instead of trying to shrink into a smaller amount of space with the maximum amount of money that I could afford, and what if instead I went for the biggest space and I made a business plan around it? I decided that I would need to get comfortable sharing the rooms in my home, which is a stretch for me. I'm an introvert, and I'm a single mom, right? Kids, vulnerability, all of that. But we took all of that into account, and I'll tell you what, 4 years down the road, it works. It worked. I had to try a few different things. I tried some short-term tenants, some long-term tenants, and I tried some Airbnb. And actually what worked best in the long run was the Airbnb, because with a family and then people coming in and out of the house, Airbnb people have the intention of living and using the space lightly. They're coming in to share, they're out to explore the city, they just want to sleep. They take good care of the house because they want to get a good review, they know that they're going to get feedback from me, they'd like other hosts to host them in the future. And likewise, I also need to provide something good. So the house stays in good condition, my family has the freedom to live our lives, we just get to share it with some travelers who come in and out. Another thing that I get asked about a lot is safety. People who haven't maybe done that much with Airbnb, aren't very familiar with it, they've just heard of it, and the idea of people coming and going from their space feels really vulnerable, and I totally get it. As an Airbnb host, I actually get a lot of control over who comes into my house. When you join Airbnb as somebody who's going to go and travel to someone's house, you are meant to put a profile picture, you're meant to give your ID, verify your identity through numerous different means. And hosts are able to decide who they're going to let in their space, so I can set some criteria. I can only accept people that have proven their identity with government ID, which therefore means they're traceable, they're accountable, we know who they are. I can only choose to welcome people into my home that have only positive reviews, which means they've already been sussed out by other hosts. We know that they're generally speaking good and positive people, and that gives me a sense of peace at welcoming in these people into my home. I think I've had over 1,000 people come through my home by now with 3 different rooms over 4 years. I've only had 1 or 2 situations where I felt a little bit uncomfortable, and all that was needed to make that okay was just somebody else's presence in my home to make sure that we could hold our boundaries. So this is one of the ways in which, as a community, the Blossom Co-Housing Project can have each other's backs. We do have people that are connected to the Blossom Co-Housing Project who have backgrounds in security, so we've kind of got some like muscle power, manpower, strength power that's available if we need it, both for moving things and for security reasons. If we find out that somebody's feeling uncomfortable with anybody in the home, we'll just come and we'll sort it out for them.